Well, good afternoon. Well, actually, good evening and happy Wednesday to all of you following us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube. My name is Sid Alinik, and you are listening to the Stones and Bones podcast. This has been truly exciting, and it's been a learning experience for myself, especially today. My goodness, this stone that I'm about to talk to you guys about has proven to be one of the stones that is truly versatile, especially with the industrial market, how this was used in history, and how this contributed to fluorescent lighting and things of that nature. This is going to be one interesting podcast. That being said, this is probably like my third time recording this. I've had some technical difficulties pretty much throughout the day trying to get this podcast out with you guys. I've taken the time to research this stone, and I am probably going to be coming back to this stone because this is one of the stones that is truly, truly fascinating. And I hope to come back and do another podcast about this in the future, talking about other elements of the stone, of the mineral, and it's going to be really interesting. That being said, we are talking about fluorite. And fluorite seems to be one of those stones that is totally and so tied into so many things around the world, especially if you guys are using cameras, if you guys have glasses, if you guys are using fluorescent lighting, fluoride, toothpaste, whatever you are using in your household that contains fluoride and things of that nature, hydrofluoric acid, it's just an insane stone, especially in the industrial marketplace. That being said, I am talking about the genius stone, and that is what this stone is called. It's called in the metaphysical world, and this has to be one of those stones that is truly exciting to research. I mean, I took about 2 or 3 hours in this researching this stone today, and a couple hours last night, and just to formulate a thought. And one of the things I found about the stone is actually that is one of the things it's tied into. It's said to boost peacefulness in the home. It's said to boost focus and give your thoughts structure. And so I'm totally leaning on the stone tonight and hoping that this actually is one of those stones that gives you clarity. That being said, the Egyptians. I mean, we are sticking to a theme at the Stones Mode podcast because on every podcast we release, it has just been about the Egyptians and the Assyrians and the Romans, and this was actually tied into also the Egyptian culture. They actually used the fluorite to carve structures, or not structures. They used them to carve statues, and more importantly, they would use the fluorite to carve scarabs. And scarabs is huge inside of the Egyptian culture. I mean, you see these on amulets, you see these on pharaohs and in depictions in their hieroglyphs and things of that nature. The scarab was said to be a protection element, or a protection image. And the thing I want to get into also is with the Chinese culture, and these were used in ancient China, in ancient Egyptian culture, and they used these as more of an ornamental stone. And the Chinese culture used these as beads. They would carve beads out of these. One of the things about the fluorite is you don't want to be putting these inside of jewelry because the hardness level on these is a number 4, which means this is a really soft stone, and it's really easy to scratch and it's really easy to break. I mean, it would wear down, especially wearing in a piece of jewelry. And if you do have this in a piece of jewelry, this is not a stone you want to be wearing too often. It's not a stone you want to be wearing every day on everyday commutes. This is probably, I mean, if you guys have this inside of a piece of jewelry, you want to have this on an occasion. I mean, this is an occasional stone to be wearing as a piece of jewelry. And this was actually said in Chinese culture to be a reasoning stone as well. And like I mentioned, it was said to be to formulate thoughts and structure your thinking. And reading stories online of people using this stone in metaphysical, it's truly fascinating because people actually use this and apply this to their studies. They would use this to study with. They would use these in their metaphysical practices and things of that nature. And this is another stone that is truly sought after in the metaphysical because of its healing properties. and these were actually used in medicine as well. There's quite a bit that would actually use this in medicine for. I can't name one right off the top of my head, but I know I've read about these were used in a lot of practices, especially in today's medicine, would use these to combat certain things and things of that nature. Now, there are so many elements and so many different fluorite findings out there, and different attributes that people look for, especially in industrial markets. And here's the thing. So going forward with the podcast, I am trying to gauge our audience and trying to give you guys a good show at home. And one of the things that we are looking for is how you guys are receiving some of this information we're putting on the table. And it's we're trying to find our footing here for the podcast, and it's going to get better and better and better. And we're just trying to find our footing and trying to figure out how I can do the podcast differently from what I've done in the past with my podcast and everything I've done with other people with collaborations. And it's going to be truly exciting. And one of the things I'm trying to gauge right now is how much you guys like the metaphysical properties, how much you guys like how this is used in medicine, how this was used in culture, how we use this today. And maybe I'll just include that in every podcast. We'll see going forward, just getting into the audience. And so I need you guys' feedback. So if you guys are on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, if you guys are on Instagram TV, if you guys are watching a clip on TikTok, make sure you guys give me a comment, inbox the page, and tell us what you want to hear, or what stone you want to hear about. And if you guys are listening on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Castbox, wherever you may be listening to the podcast on, please go to facebook.com and go to Stones and Bones Billings on Facebook, or Stones and Bones on Instagram, or stones-bones.com. And there's a little icon that pops up that allows you to message the page immediately, visiting the website, and give us an input and let us know what you guys want to hear. That being said, this stone, there's so many elements to this, and there's so many different types of fluorite, and there's so many different colors. When I first got introduced to fluorite, I had no idea that there were so many different colors. I had no idea what fluorite was until this past year. Like I said, I've been in the shop for quite some time, but I'm just learning about some of these stones and researching these stones, especially to put on Facebook. But I thought that there was only purple fluorite, green fluorite, yellow fluorite, rainbow fluorite, but that was totally dead wrong. There is so many different types of fluorite, and it's kind of interesting. The reason I have pyrite on the table, this gold chunk and this gold sphere, is because fluorite is highly fusible, especially in its natural state. So a lot of times you'll find that this stone is found with quartz crystal. It's found infused with pyrite, and that's what you get with gold fluorite. And it's really cool to see, because you'll see that the fluorite would turn like a goldish color. This isn't gold fluorite, but it's yellow. But it would turn a goldish color, and you'll find little specks of shininess coming from the pyrite inside of the fluorite stone, the mineral. And it's just truly interesting. There's pink fluorite, there's blue fluorite, which I have on the table here. There's red fluorite infused with quartz that is found. It's just truly fascinating to see that these stones are truly versatile. The largest fluorite found was 16 tons. And I think that was in, I'm actually not too sure where they found that one. But this stone is common to be used in the industrial mechanics and making cabinets and things of that nature. So let me go down the list here. I have some key points. There's an acid grade fluorite used to manufacture hydrofluoric acid. There's ceramic grade fluorite, fluorspar, that they use that to make specialty glass, which specialty glass is actually synthetic fluorite, which is melted down and made into this clear fluorite that they use in cameras, telescopes. They use those in glass, and they actually make these. They apply these to surfaces to make products more attractive. So if you're actually shopping out there and you guys are looking for lenses, looking for glasses, looking for just a lot of these shiny objects, is what they'll actually do in the industrials. Is they'll They'll melt this down, they'll make a synthetic form of fluorite, and they'll apply those to appliances, and they'll make them more attractive to you guys. And what they have found is applying fluorite has upped their sales in a lot of these appliances. So it's kind of one of those stones that is truly sought after, not only in its raw form, but especially if you're searching for an item out there and there's this pearlescent glow to some of these items you're looking at, that is most likely going to be fluorite. Really interesting to see. Metallic grade fluorite, they use this in making iron, steel, metals, and they actually use fluorite primarily to remove impurities like sulfur, which is kind of interesting. Optical fluorite used to create sharp images in cameras. So what they'll actually do is they'll actually make lenses out of these, and they'll use the synthetic fluorite, which is specialty glass, and they'll actually make camera lenses out of these, and it's just truly fascinating to see that. And because they found that using the synthetic fluorite, or using fluorite itself, it actually creates this sharper image, especially in your video making and your photography. And so looking out there, especially on Canon's market, on the Canon camera, they actually use fluorite inside of their manufacturing. And Canon is actually the camera I am using, and some of the lenses, they use this inside of their assembly, which is kind of interesting. The Latin word, this is derived from the Latin word fluorite, and means to flow, and it's referring to its fusibility, which I mentioned in the past, is that this is you can find that infused with pyrite. It has a melting point, and that's kind of why they use it for the specialty glass. It has a melting point of 1,360 degrees Celsius, which is kind of interesting. The hardness scale on this is a number 4, and that is why, like I mentioned, you don't want to put this on a piece of jewelry. I mean, this stone was used so much in culture, especially in the Egyptian culture, in the Chinese culture. But the first ever modern finding of the fluorite was in 1797. And that is kind of insane to see, because they didn't actually know this stone existed until 1797, especially on the scale that it was found in and used in. They actually referred to the fluorite as fluorspar in the industrial businesses, but fluorspar was actually the first ever name given to fluorite. And the cool thing about fluorite is when you get into different hues, they mean different colors, and they mean different. They have different meanings in different colors. So the purple fluorite is actually attributed to the Libra, and that is kind of cool, because if you are a Libra out there, you can actually adopt the purple fluorite as your stone. And if you guys are into the metaphysical, you can actually use this if you're a Libra. It's really cool to see. So if you're a Libra, you are a fluorite stone. That's your stone, astrological stone. That's pretty cool. Now, another really cool thing about the fluorite is this has a huge tie-in with science. And there's actually a man in 1852, and this guy goes by the name of George Gabriel Stokes. You guys can Google him, and he discovered fluorite's ability to produce a blue glow when illuminated with light, which means he took ultraviolet lighting, a black light, and he shined this onto. He was actually going over some stones, and he shined this over fluorite, and he found that this was a phosphorescent, so it was actually found to glow a blue. And the reason is when there's other elements incorporated into the fluorite that substitute calcium, because calcium is one of the main elements of fluorite. When there's other elements that come in and they substitute calcium, it actually makes the fluorite glow, which is kind of interesting. So if you got a fluorite and it has calcium inside of it, a lot of times you'll find that this does not glow. So it's more of like a gamble, but it's actually pretty common to see fluorite glow. So if you guys have fluorite at home and you guys didn't know this, make sure you get your black light, shine it over your fluorite, and see if it glows. And if you guys have one of those glowing fluorites, that means that there is other substituting the element of calcium in the mineral structure. And he was quoted as saying, "Beyond the violet end of the spectrum," which means he was using ultraviolet light, and he was actually researching this. and that is where we get the word fluorescent, is from the fluorite mineral, which is kind of interesting. So if you guys are if you guys have a black light, you guys have things like that nature, fluorescent lighting, the word fluorescent comes from that man's findings, the scientist's findings, which is kind of cool. Like I mentioned in the past, they use this in making telescopes, microscopes, Canon lenses. Another one of the cool things about this stone is this is an extremely unique stone, and the reason is fluorite. It's the only common mineral that has a 4-directional and a perfect cleavage point, which means that when it is broken, you'll find that when it is broken into a octahedron, and it's like almost like a diamond kind of deal. And I was looking at these inside of the shop, and when I got these, I'm actually glad she sent these with me, Crystal. I thought this was cut this way, but it's not. When there's actually pressure applied to fluorite in such a way that breaks it, it actually breaks into what is called an octahedron, and that is because the mineral of fluorite is extremely it's the only mineral of its kind that breaks in a 4-directional pattern, and it has a 4-directional breaking point and a perfect a cleavage breaking point is what they call it, which is kind of cool. It's really, really cool. So that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed the podcast, and just hope that you guys stuck through me rambling on about this stone, and hopefully it formulated a good thought for you guys to get out to, if you guys are researching a stone or just interested in fluorite, and maybe you guys want to buy these things. They're really, really cool to have. And that being said, everything you guys see on the table will be for sale on the Stones Bones website. That's stones-bones.com. And not only that, I have my my poster board ready. We'll actually be going live here soon, and I'll be selling my new inventory that I have from the Stones Bones Rock Shop. She actually sent me with a new inventory for podcasting and for going live on Facebook and Instagram Live and things of that nature. It's going to be really exciting. I hope you guys stick around so you guys can find these on stones-bones.com very soon. I'll be uploading these probably sometime tonight, so early tomorrow morning you guys will be able to find these. Happy Wednesday to you guys. I hope you guys have a good evening. My name is Sid Alinik, and you're listening to the Stones and Bones podcast.